Welcome back to the This Day podcast. Today on the podcast, I am so thrilled to welcome our new friend Jessica. If you are a part of the theater world or know anything about theater at all, Jessica was a part of the 2020 and 2021 Sight and Sound Theater production of Queen Esther, and she played Queen Esther. So it is a joy to have her on the podcast today to hear her story on such an incredible time playing Queen Esther, one of the most incredible stories in the Bible. So take a listen now to Jessica's wonderful story. You do not want to miss it. Before we dive into today's conversation, here's a word from our podcast sponsor, Dwell. We are so excited to partner with Dwell. Dwell is a great resource to use to deepen your learning of Scripture. You can listen to the Dwell Bible app on your way to work, when you are just sitting in traffic, or when you're having your quiet time. You can have Scripture read aloud to you. You can read through the Bible all in a year, and you do not have to stress about maybe not being able to make it through some of those books that you found to be so challenging to read. Dwell is there for you, and we are so excited to partner with them. If you want to learn more, you can click our link and find out more about all Dwell has to offer. Tune in now to hear our conversation with Jessica. So, Jessica, it's so nice to meet you, and it's so good to talk to you today. So why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself to everybody that is listening and that will listen, and just share a little bit about who you are and what you have done and are doing.
Yeah, so my name is Jessica Maldonado. I'm married, but I go by Maldonado, but Brown. It's all confusing. So Jessica Maldonado Brown, long name. But I was Queen Esther at Sight and Sound in Lancaster, Pennsylvania from the year 2020 and 2021. So I've been an actress there for about 4 years now. And then the first 3 years of my career were in Branson at the other location. So it's about a total of 7 years at Sight and Sound. And now I have a newborn baby boy. He's about almost 6 weeks old. And so that's where the Lord called me. It's actually a really crazy story how all that happened, but yeah, excited to be on here today.
That's so exciting. So you mentioned you have a baby boy. Now, babies keep everybody kind of present in whatever day that they're living in, because you can't help but stay focused on your little baby. Now, one question we ask everybody that comes on the podcast is, what's keeping you present during this current day? Because there's so many distractions that come alongside our days. So what's something that's keeping you present?
Yeah, so coming from Sight and Sound and the whole theater life, it's pretty crazy all the time. You know, you never know what's going to happen on stage. You've got to be on top of your toes. And even more than that, when you're doing a role like Queen Esther, it can be really spiritually and emotionally demanding. And so it's just training yourself to take your thoughts captive every single day. So having a baby is that times 10. You're always on your toes, you know, trying to figure out why your baby's crying, and trying to be the best parent you can be. So one of the things that keeps me present, and something that someone told me once, because I have a really big problem with anxiety and fear. And they spoke over me that if you're looking towards the future, if you're anxious about the future, or you're living in fear, then you're robbing the Lord of the worship and praise he deserves in each day. So living in the joy of each day. So that's what's getting me through. Focusing on the joy, the beautiful blessings, the little details that the Lord gives me every day. This has really been a season of reflection and just being faithful in the seemingly mundane and not glamorous. You know, you go from doing Queen Esther with all these sparkly dresses and the crown and all of the glitz and glam of it, but then, to be called to do something just as great, but seemingly to everyone else, it's kind of like a step down because you don't have the glitter and the glam. You have poop and pee that you've got to take care of. So yeah, living in the present has been just living in the joy of each day and trusting that the Lord has my future and my present in his hand, which is totally the story of Queen Esther. It was be still and know that he's God. And it's crazy that now I'm living that in a different way.
Absolutely. And Queen Esther was just such a beautifully done production by Sight and Sound. Just every part of it. You couldn't take your eyes off the stage. It was so, so beautiful. Sets, actors, everything was just stunning. So, and what about this experience? Just kind of share a little bit about every part of this experience for you. What did it mean to you to play this iconic character from the Bible?
Yeah, it meant a lot. It was a huge responsibility. It was a great honor, a great blessing. Oh, there's my baby. A great honor, a great blessing. But it was hard, when the Lord calls you to do something, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. He equips you when
Absolutely.
you do it. So, yeah, it kind of feels like a roller coaster ride because we opened in 2020. So that was crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned throughout the whole process was my identity in the Lord. That was a big thing for me. Like I said, I dealt with anxiety. I've dealt with anxiety and fear. And one of those things kind of wrapped up all in that is insecurity. I was very insecure about my talent, about myself, my body as a woman. We can all relate to that. I mean, men deal with it too, but for women, it's so prevalent. Yeah, so that is something that I really dealt with through the 2 years of doing Esther, and I had to learn my identity in the Lord. Like I said, there's all this glitz and glam and all these different things going on, and it's beautiful and such an honor to be a part of. But it was really, really hard. It really was, and it was about, again, taking your thoughts captive and remembering who you are in the Lord. I remember there were days where I would step foot on the stage and I would just be covered in anxiety, and I would be like, I can't do this today. If I have to sing one more note, if one person puts a spotlight on me, I'm going to lose it,
Yeah.
Which is weird because you get to these places. I thought I was going to, it was something that I had prayed over for 2 years prior to getting the role. If I get this thing, it's going to be my defining thing in my career, and I'm going to be so happy. And what I discovered was, while being very grateful and thankful for it, it didn't fulfill me as much as I thought it was going to, and that's why you see these celebrities who they run to drugs and alcohol and women and money and all these different kinds of things, because it's never going to fulfill you. Anything apart from the Lord is never going to fulfill you. So that's what I recognized, what I realized during that season. It was just wow, this is never going to be enough. I'm always going to want even the applaud of the audience, or someone telling me that I did a good job. It's fleeting. It makes me feel good for a second, and then it's gone. So getting to that, what I thought was the pinnacle, I think the Lord needed to take me there to realize that wasn't my identity. He's like, I'm using you for a really great purpose, and you're reaching thousands of people, between the Queen Esther live event that we did. It was international. It went through over 100 countries. The Lord used that and used that story and used me to do that. He could have used anybody, so who am I to think I'm so special? So it really humbled me, and it refocused and recalibrated my whole entire spiritual walk. And now I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back into life going, oh, if I just get this thing, it'll fulfill me, because I know that it's fleeting and it's empty. So yeah, that's kind of what I learned, and that was the experience I had. It was beautiful. Everyone is so talented, cast and crew, and the builders of the sets, and the writers and producers, and everyone is just so great. So it was, I'm not going to say it was easy. it was really hard, doing 11 shows a week. I would do Esther 9 shows out of the 11, which is quite a bit.
That is, yeah.
Vocal fatigue, physical fatigue, but the Lord gets you through it and he equips you through it all. And then at the end, he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. And it was all preparation for this season now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. That, like, what a beautiful story, though. Like, what a testament to you and just your journey, and even to the story of Esther, like what she went through and everything. Like, what a beautiful, beautiful story, Jessica. I thank you so much for sharing that. We are so excited to partner with Faithful Counseling in order to promote better mental health. Mental health is such a big thing happening in our culture right now, and we want you to have a positive mental health. Faithful Counseling provides Christian counselors to people struggling with their mental health. You can click our link to receive 10% off your first month of therapy. Go check them out.
Yeah, of course.
How did just the story of Esther just impact you, like, on a personal level? Because you read through the Bible, you read the story your whole life growing up, whether it's like going to church or not going to church, you just hear about this story about this woman in the Bible that defies all odds and makes it to this pinnacle moment. And then you get to adapt that onto the stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really, what I learned, was be still.
Yeah.
That's like the big theme of the whole show.
Yeah.
And then one of the other themes is you're not alone. And I struggled with that for the longest time, with my insecurity and my fear and my anxiety, feeling alone in it. And what it showed me was it kind of grew me into a prayer warrior. Like, doing the role of Esther grew me into a better woman for the Lord, which is crazy, because I don't even recognize myself now. Like, if I could go back I guess it's been 3-4 years ago now, I'm not the same person, because I allowed the Lord to refine me through it all. And so singing, you're not alone, like, tell your story, that's been a huge thing for me, even doing this podcast. Like, it's scary getting up on a stage, it's scary doing stuff like this, but when you share your story, when you share what the Lord has done in your heart, that's encouragement for other people in their walk. And then another thing that I learned through doing the role was the whole be still thing. Again, having that fear and anxiety, having to sing be still every single day when I was so anxious and insecure about myself. Oh, that was hard. Like, I would be in tears every single show because I'm like actually living, having to like say be still as I'm feeling all of these emotions inside of me. So my hope now in the season that I'm in is to be a mentor, or to be someone who can give wisdom and guidance to other women who are struggling with the same thing that I was struggling with. We'll see what the Lord does with that. I have all these desires in my heart that I want to do now, but for now I'm called to be a mom, and we'll see what the Lord does with all those desires. But that's what I learned by doing Queen Esther, was just this boldness and this confidence, because I always thought that having confidence meant you were like cocky, like, I don't want to be like that, because like everyone's always, I feel like, even especially in a Christian circle, it's almost like confidence is like not a good thing. It's like, no, you want to be humble, and I feel like I had this sense of like false humbleness, because I was like, I'm not good enough, but that's still selfishness and pride and vanity all in the same thing. It's just, you're saying that you don't have it. So I think it really showed me that confidence and boldness isn't a bad thing when you have your confidence in the Lord. It's confidence in who the Lord made you to be, and not so much confidence in you and yourself, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's just walking, like you said, walking confidently in who God created you to be, walking confidently in your purpose and calling, that God's doing what he's promised through and in you. So I
Right.
think that's so good. Absolutely. Now, so many people, like you said, like millions of people have now seen Esther. They've seen this Sight and Sound adaptation, and they've seen the story played out in front of them. They've seen it be made real. Why do you think this is an important or an impactful story for people to even go watch through Sight and Sound, or it's playing in Branson currently? So why would this be important for people to go see or impactful for them to go see?
Well, I don't know if anybody's like watched the news or like, gone on social media, but like
Yeah.
the world is now more than it's ever been. I mean, it's always been kind of crazy, but now I feel like there's just so many opinions and there's so many outlets trying to tell you who you should be and what you should
Yeah.
believe. And 2020 was crazy and COVID and all of that. And so I feel like it's just getting more chaotic every single year. And Queen Esther is really a story about trusting that the Lord has it and knowing that you serve a mighty, victorious Yahweh who can conquer anything.
Yeah.
And when you feel so powerless, you have to trust that He's going to do what He said He's going to do. And you have to trust that He is who He says He is. I always say that. I say, when there's something that I'm really fearful about, I go, okay, I either believe Him or I don't. And if you believe Him,
Yeah.
then you have to trust Him. And this story of Queen Esther is this woman, this girl, this teenage girl who's taken from her family, from her cousin, put into a harem, a very scary place for a young woman to be, especially a Hebrew. And then she gets picked, the Lord elevates her,
Yeah.
and she has to sit and be faithful and wait for the right opportunity to reveal who she is. And so I think the story is just a story about finding yourself in the Lord, finding that confidence and that boldness in God, and waiting and trusting that He's gonna take care of it. So I mean, that's the perfect story to go watch right now when everyone's trying to tell you what you should believe and who you should be. It's just, of course, it's beautiful. So like, go watch it
Yeah.
because it's really beautiful, and there's amazing talent out there. My friend Emily Baker, she is playing Queen Esther out in Branson, and she does. I haven't seen it. I would imagine she does a beautiful job. So yeah, go watch it. If you want something that's just going to point you towards the Lord and actually grow you in your faith and trusting Him.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned you acted in Sight and Sound. You've been to Branson. You were in Lancaster. How did this all start for you? How did everything get started for you?
Yeah, I did not go to school for musical theater. I was not really in the whole musical theater scene. I was in a rock band in high school. So I was like,
No way.
my favorite band is Aerosmith, which they're going to be here in Philly like September 2nd. And I don't have tickets, and I'm so sad about it. But that was not on my radar to do something like this. And my husband and I got married in November of 2016, and we heard about this place called Sight and Sound. We had a few friends actually who had heard about it, or I think one of them actually worked at Sight and Sound at one point, and they said, "You guys would do great there. You guys should audition." And we both auditioned, freshly married, both auditioned for Sight and Sound, and long story short, we both got contracts in Branson. So about 2 months into us being married, we packed up everything and we moved to Branson, Missouri, which is like 900 miles away from both of our families. And we just started our journey. My husband is more of the musical theater person. Like, he knows all of the musicals like Phantom of the Opera and all those things. And like, my husband's parents were just in town, and they were talking about Fiddler on the Roof, and they were singing some song, and I was like, "What's that?" They're like, "It's from Fiddler on the Roof. You don't know what that is?" I was like, "No, I don't." So that's how musical theater challenged I am. So that wasn't on my radar. And, we got to Branson and I was in the cast and I did mainly ensemble for about 3 years and just kind of learned how it all works, what stage left, what stage right, what's all this stuff. And then they announced that they were doing the show Queen Esther. That would have been in like 2017 or 2018 is when they tell us like internally in the company what show they're going to do next. And about 3 months prior to that, I had been going through this crisis. Remember, like I'm not a musical theater person. So I'm there at Sight and Sound and I'm going like, should I really be here? Like, this is not my thing. And the Lord in my quiet time, he was like, just be still, just trust me, just be still. I was like, oh, okay. And so that phrase, be still, was kind of like ingrained in me. And so much so that I actually ended up getting a tattoo, be still, on my arm. And then about 3 months after that is when they announced they were going to do Queen Esther. So I'm sitting there and I just see these words, be still, come up on the screen. And I was like,
oh my
God.
goodness.
I was like, God, are you like, is this it? And I sat there and I felt so drawn to it and I felt so called to do it, but I didn't necessarily feel equipped. Again, I didn't go to school for this. Like all of these other people sitting around me have gone to school for it. They've been doing this for a long time. Like I can't do this, but I feel called to do it.
Yeah.
And so for like 3 years, 2 or 3 years, I prayed about it and meditated on it. I had seasons where I would, a few weeks where I would do fasts. I was really seeking the Lord and I was trying to get right. And I was like trying to surrender it. I was like, Lord, if this is not from you, please take this desire away. And then when it came to the audition, I love telling the story because this just proves that God is just in it and it's not by you. I get into my audition and again, this was like, it felt like it was meant to be for me in my heart. And it ended up, proving to be the Lord. But in the moment, I'm just like, hey, like, this is it, And I go in and I do my audition. And I remember I did the sides, I did all the scenes, I was like, okay, that was good. And then I get to the song. And I remember I sing the I'll wait on you. And I start singing like, I'll wait on you. And I just sob through the whole rest of the audition. Every song that I'm singing, I cry through it all. And I leave the audition and I look at my husband and I go, I bombed it. I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not getting the part. So it just proves that, even when, obviously I didn't really sing through it, but the Lord was like, no, here you go. This is your thing. So
wow, what an incredible story. Oh my word, I love that. Like who would have thought like God literally took the inner like rocker love for you and then now has like given you this whole love for musical theater in a way.
Yeah.
Even though Aerosmith is still the desire of your heart.
Will always be there.
Will always be there. Oh my goodness. Well, right now you're a sweet, sweet mama to a sweet newborn, but what is next for you?
Whatever the Lord has. And, it might sound cliche. It's funny because I just told that story about how the Lord, I felt called to do the role of Queen Esther for about 2 or 3 years before the show actually happened.
Yeah.
And so that was like a season of faith. It was, here is this thing. I'm revealing it to you and trust me. Yeah. And so we went on that faith journey. And then it was another season of having faith that the Lord was going to continue to equip me through it. And now we're in this season of having a baby and being faithful. And I have these desires in my heart, to be completely transparent. Like I have this huge desire to do film. I grew to love the whole acting side of musical theater. Yeah. So, but again, I've got to surrender that, and I've got to let the Lord take it. And I know that whatever happens, it's going to be Him. So I'm just in this season of waiting. And I actually find myself, I'll be like rocking my little baby to sleep. His name is Israel. I'll be rocking him to sleep and I'll start singing, I'll wait on you, that Lady in Waiting song. And I'm finding that I'm singing these words that I sang doing the role of Queen Esther, but I'm singing them in this season and it means something completely different. And so I don't know what's next. Only the Lord knows. And I'm okay not knowing. I'm okay waiting because now this faith journey for me is God's like, okay, have faith, even when you can't see what it is,
Yeah.
Because in Esther, I could see there was this thing, and now I don't see anything. I'm just taking care of my baby, cleaning poopy diapers all day, cleaning up the house, and waiting for my husband to get home. And I spend a lot of that time reflecting and praying and seeking the Lord's peace and guidance in this season right now. Again, because nothing is ever going to fulfill me. Not being a mom, not being an actor, an actress, a singer, the color of my skin, nothing is going to fulfill me. I can't find my identity in any of that because it's fleeting. There's that verse. There's a whole story about the woman with the blood issue who touches the cloak of Jesus and she's healed. And Jesus says to her, "Be encouraged, my daughter, your faith has made you well." And if you look up the Greek, because I'm like a Greek and Hebrew nerd, so I like to look at the original words. And so well actually translates to sozo in Greek, which means to be complete. And so he says, "My faith has made you complete." And when I read that, for me, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm complete in the faith that I have in the Lord. That is it. Anything else I get on top of that is just grace. It's just blessing. It's favor. It's things that I don't deserve. But because God is so good, he just kind of piles on extra stuff. So that being said, I'm just trying to be content in all circumstances and finding my completeness in the Lord and just waiting to see what's next. And if it's nothing, if it's this for the rest of my life, then, knowing that it's from the Lord, what more could I ask for?
Absolutely. Well, I love that, Jessica. That is just so incredible. That's what a testimony of your faith and just your journey thus far. And just thank you so much for sharing all that God has placed on your heart and all that he's doing in and through you. It's been so great to get to know you and get to hear your story.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, this is something that I love to do. I love to share what the Lord did through all of that and who I became through it, because it's not just about the role. It's about who I am now in him. And I just have this fire in my belly just to share that story, because I feel like it's so encouraging. And my passion has been for women, for women to know who they are and whose they are, because, it can feel so dead and so lonely. And I know what that feels like, to just feel like no one cares, to feel like no one even understands the insecurities that you have. But the Lord knows, and he delivers you out.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that I'm on the other side of that and am able to share stories like this. Again, it wasn't easy. It was really, really hard. But when you allow the Lord to refine you, you just have this sense of completeness in him. So thank you for letting me share the story, because I think out of the overflow, then other people can heal and get closer to the Lord. So that's my prayer for this, that someone would be impacted by something that we discussed, and that the Lord would just get a hold of them and they can have a peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for just your honesty and vulnerability to share what God has placed on your heart and continues to place on your heart.
Yeah.
And it's been such a joy to get to know you. And I just wish you all the best with your newborn. I think God has incredible things in store for you, and we will be praying for you and just in all the ways that God is going to continue to use you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Friends, thanks so much for listening today to our conversation with Jessica, who played Queen Esther in Sight and Sound's production of Queen Esther. If you want to find out more about Sight and Sound Theaters and the incredible productions they are doing, be sure to head over to their website, Sight and Sound Theaters, and follow them on social media. They have 2 theater locations, one in Branson, Missouri, and one in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Right now, they are showing Queen Esther in Branson, Missouri. So if you are near the area or want to take a road trip, that is a do not miss production. If you want to see another incredible story from the Bible, you can head over to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and check out their production of Moses. Y'all, this is an incredible, incredible opportunity for you to also follow us on all of our social pages at This Day Ministries. So be sure to check us out wherever we are on the socials, on Facebook, on Instagram. So check us out. Know that you are so, so loved.